Oh my goodness, robes. Okay.
Raise your hand.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We sure ask life a lot of questions, don't we? In addition to the ones that Hoetsu Sensei mentioned, all those what ifs, we also ask things like, why is there so much suffering in this world? Why is this happening? What am I supposed to do about it? Why can't I just... Why do I always... Why am I like this? Why are they doing that? What's going to happen? Will we be okay? What am I missing? What should I have for dinner? Why don't they like me? Why me? Why them? How long will this go on? When will it end? When will it get better? When will Ryushin Sensei stop posing these stupid questions? Is he really asking another one? Maybe just one more. What is the meaning of life? I'm guessing that last one, or one kind of like it, has something to do with why you're here at this silent Zen retreat. We ask a lot of questions of life. Actually, we demand answers from life. Life tends to be silent about the questions that plague us the most. At least that's what I've noticed. A poem by Alfred Lord Tennyson captures this kind of entitled, almost aggressive tendency we have to interrogate life. Flower in the crannied wall, I pluck you out of the crannies. Hold you here, root and all, in my hand, little flower. But if I could understand what you are, root and all in all, I should know what God and man is. I want you just to imagine going out and finding a wildflower and just like, why won't you tell me, flower? You just tell me so I can know what God and man is. We do this all the time. So Alfred Lord Tennyson would have us pluck out the Dharma flower and torture it to extract a confession. What profound delusion is this? Yet hoke ten hoke. The Dharma flower turns the Dharma flower. Basho, one of the greatest haiku masters, seems to have had right view on this subject. So consider his verse. When I look carefully, I see the Nazuna blooming by the hedge. Looking carefully with curiosity and openness, nothing is hidden. Experiencing and living life is not the same as trying to extract meaning and understanding from it. Understanding assumes distance, perspective, subject, object, separation, duality. Experience, well, Nishijima Roshi may have said it best. Not knowing is most intimate. So how can we approach this question of the meaning of life, or the great matter, as we call it in Zen, with an attitude of not knowing? Viktor Frankl had some poignant things to say about questions related to the meaning of life. Do people know who Viktor Frankl was? If you don't, he was an Austrian psychiatrist who lived through the horrors of the Auschwitz concentration camp, lost his entire family, lost his life's work. He actually, ironically, was studying meaning, and he had his notes for his dissertation, and he sewed them into his jacket coat, which was immediately taken by the Nazis and burned. His entire life's work, his entire life was over. And he survived the horrors of the concentration camp by finding meaning and noticing and studying life through those circumstances as a way of finding meaning and purpose. I'm finding Frankl disturbingly relevant these days. We need his perspective on meaning more than ever, I'm afraid. So here's one of the things he said about the meaning of life. Now we also understand how, in the final analysis, the question of the meaning of life is not asked in the right way, if asked in the way it is generally asked, kind of like Alfred Lord Tennyson asked. It is not we who are permitted to ask about the meaning of life. It is life that asks questions, directs questions at us. We are the ones who are questioned. We are the ones who must answer. We must give answers to the constant, hourly question of life, to the essential life questions. Living itself means nothing other than being questioned. Our whole act of being is nothing more than responding to or being response-able towards life. I'd like you to compare those words to Nishijima Roshi's comments on the essence of life and Buddhist practice. Nishijima said, "Our lives contain many problems. Difficult problems are, in fact, the substance of our lives." Difficult problems are the substance of our life. We don't solve them to get to life. They are the substance of our life. To solve difficult problems is thus life itself. To solve difficult problems is Buddhist practice itself. When we have a difficult problem, we should look for the best possibility, the most realistic possibility. Looking for such possibilities is Buddhist practice. Difficult problems are the substance of our lives. Living itself means nothing other than being questioned. Our whole act of being is nothing more than responding or being response-able, doing what we can towards life. What is life asking of you right now? What service does life require from you? I wanted to share one of the vows from the Shuke Tokudo ceremony that I had the honor of participating in. Seicho Sensei was gracious enough to offer me when I was ordained. Toward the end of the vows that priests take, there was one that really brought a tear to my eye. I will open the gate of enlightenment, stand just outside that threshold, hearing the cries of existence, and usher all creation through before entering. It's a little different than, "What do you mean, flower?" This is the way of the Bodhisattva. This is the way of the tragic optimist. Tragic optimism is a term coined by Viktor Frankl that invites a perspective that doesn't deny the difficulties of life, but also doesn't require a lapse into nihilism where nothing matters. Even when everything is hopeless, his perspective was that there's always the possibility of finding a sense of meaning and purpose. I think we could probably take him at his word, given what he's been through. So this is the way he described tragic optimism. Tragic optimism is optimism in the face of tragedy and in view of the human potential at its best, which always allows for, one, turning suffering into a human achievement and accomplishment. Turning suffering into a human achievement and accomplishment. Human beings are the only animals, I think, that can choose their response to suffering. Choose to make it a growth opportunity. Choose to bear suffering in a dignified way as a way of having a meaningful existence, even in the most hopeless circumstances. Suffering can be a very good teacher. If you don't turn away from it, it can open your heart. I remember from the book American Sutra. If you haven't read American Sutra, I would recommend it. It's about the Japanese experience of being interned during World War II, specifically the experience of Japanese Buddhists and Buddhist teachers. And one of the teachers in there talks about the experience of being in the camp. And he said he was grateful for that experience. Because he said, maybe living through this will give me some life experience so that if another human being has the same experience later on, I will be able to completely understand and offer them empathy. This blows me away when I think about that. Almost being welcoming, enthusiastic about, oh, this is going to be a terrible fucking situation. Maybe that'll help me, if I can live through this, it'll help somebody else in the same situation. Number two, tragic optimism allows for deriving from guilt the opportunity to change oneself for the better. And I have to understand, Frankl had just survived World War II, and there was a lot of collective guilt in society. How could we have let this happen? What if we could go back and change it? None of that is possible. You can't go back. You can't go into the past. But acknowledging mistakes that you've made, ways that maybe you've violated your deepest values and precepts, offers an opportunity to change and do better. We're all fallible, but we can use our worst moments to learn about how to be not as bad. Third, tragic optimism, deriving from life's transitoriness, an incentive to take responsible action. Well, that sounds a whole lot like the evening gata that Jiryu has been chanting every night. Life and death are of supreme importance. Time passes swiftly by and opportunity is lost. We must all strive to awaken. Awaken. Take heed. Do not squander your life. Impermanence invites us to really appreciate each moment. because we know it's not going to last. Wildflowers are beautiful because they die. If they were just omnipresent all around, we would just ignore them. We'd habituate to them and forget they were there. But those cherry blossoms that Seicho talked about, they're just there for a couple of weeks and then gone. So beautiful. So instead of lamenting the fact that life is impermanent, maybe it's actually impermanence itself that really allows us to appreciate our lives. Saving all sentient beings can seem overwhelming. I know I feel kind of overwhelmed by that on occasion, and by that I mean every day. And this is especially true if you're one of the beings who could currently use some saving because you're having a hard time. And that responsibility might just seem way too big for any mere mortal. I think it's important to remember that Shakyamuni wasn't some superhero. Viktor Frankl wasn't some superhero. They were human beings, just like us. When you read the sutras, they're exaggerated a bit. And I think part of that is it's really difficult for human beings to grasp that just like an ordinary person could be capable of showing up in the face of suffering in an honorable way. Like there must be some supernatural quality. How could we possibly do that? But the whole reason we're practicing this is because a human being discovered this process and passed it along through generations for other human beings, not to turn into something different than human, to actually be fully human. The word responsibility, it offers a way out of the dilemma of this is too big. Responsibility often has this connotation of obligation, must do something. But really, if you just take it literally, responsibility, it only requires that you do what you're able and respond how you're able. Minds tend to jump ahead and suggest things that we can't do. They are very efficient problem-solving tools. Like if you ask your mind, how do I go to the moon? Well, just fly there. Okay. Go outside and try to fly to the moon right now. You can't do it.
Well, I can.
Oh, well, Seicho can. He's not human. Do what you can. You can only do what you can. You're just a mortal, after all, not a superhero. No need to be any more than that. If you're down on yourself because you can't be a superhero, you might want to sit with that a bit. That might be one of those kind of thoughts you want to let go. Responsible. Able to respond according to your ability, capacity, circumstances. Don't turn away from suffering and just do what you can. The not turning away is so important. We discount that as nothing, like we need to then come up with a solution, but bearing witness is only human beings can bear witness. To choose to care and to show up and pay attention. Bearing witness and choosing to care is sometimes the best and really only option we have when we encounter big suffering. Like the kind that we can't fix. Offering yourself in this way is usually overlooked because it doesn't fix anything. We're like paralyzed when we're in the face of suffering. Oh, what do we do? How are we going to fix this? I mean, it's ridiculous. If you have someone who has a loved one pass away or a beloved pet pass away, your mind will like notice. It'll start like thinking about like what am I going to say to like make this better? You can't make it better. That's not our job. So offering yourself is often overlooked because it doesn't fix anything. But maybe our job as bodhisattvas isn't to fix anything. What is there to fix? Our job is maybe to care and just show we care and then show others how to care by our example. Let me tell you a story about offering one's whole self in the service of caring. About 10 years ago now, my beloved chocolate lab, Sonny, passed away. He had skin cancer. It was really aggressive. And we had to put him down, say goodbye to him. And that weekend, we had plans to go visit Louisville because one of our friends was doing the Ironman. And we decided to go to a brewery beforehand. And we walked in, and wouldn't you know it, of course, there was a dog adoption event. So we walked in, and we were with some friends, and they looked at me and my wife, and were like, "It's okay, let's go." And they had a thing where you could donate like $5 and hold a puppy. And I'm like crying in my beer, and I'm like, all right, I still love dogs. I'm gonna donate the $5. And the volunteer looked around and said, "Oh, here's Opal. You can hang out with Opal." And Opal was she had like such a scruffy face and sweet eyes, and she yawned. So I picked her up and sat down, and she fell asleep in my lap and just stayed there for 2 hours. And the attendant came by, and they're like, "Where's Opal? Did somebody run off?" I'm like, "No, she's right here." And they're like, "Oh, okay." I thought I had stolen her. I thought about it. Not stealing her, but Opal didn't be like, "It's gonna be okay." She didn't say anything. She did nothing except sleep peacefully in my lap. That's exactly what I needed. She knew exactly what I needed. She didn't fix anything. She just was herself, warm and asleep and cuddly in my lap. That's not nothing. So, honestly, I think we often overlook the obvious, kindest, and most human response to suffering because we're accustomed to using the wrong organ. This is what we need to use. We grasp after grand solutions while tripping over the tiny opportunities right in front of us to just be decent, loving, ordinary people, responding to life with care. Life is constantly asking us little questions. Can you be willing to stop and listen? Are you brave enough to respond with a loving heart? Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teachings, saving all sentient beings. I'll leave you with a haiku by Busan that reminded me of that verse we said. White dew, one drop on each thorn. The universe is made up of endless thorns and an abundance of white dew. Can you be just one single tiny drop at a time? That's enough. That, my friends, is everything.